Damon Benning. We have you for the next couple of hours here on the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show. We have a lot to talk about in reaction to Nebraska's victory over Cincinnati last week at Arrowhead, but also looking forward into this week into the Akron Zips. I think the first game is, in terms of intrigue, always up there for fans because they're doing their own comparing and contrasting of everything they've digested over the course of spring ball and in fall camp, and your first live action to kind of dissect. And I think that's usually what we all spend the week doing between week one and week two, watching the game, rewatching the highlights, re-looking at the stats, and trying to dissect a 60-minute football game into what could potentially be for the next 11 on the schedule for the Cornhuskers. And Damon, it just feels great to kind of get the season started that way. Obviously, finishing 1-0 is always the goal, but I think it was more of a white-knuckle game than we had hoped and expected, especially with how that game played out. I think, upon multiple rewatches, Nebraska felt in control of that game from start to finish. Didn't appear that way on the scoreboard, but to go down and make a play in the last, waning moments of that football game, not something that this team has been able to do on the regular. And to get that done in that environment was pretty satisfying. And I have to imagine, for the team, the guys who have been around, a real shot in the arm in terms of the confidence.
Yeah, you got the best of both worlds, right? You have plenty of teaching tape, right? You always want to get better from week one to week two, and you come out guns a-blazing, and you get a chance to go back to the drawing board and improve. And what better way to do it is than getting a W, right? You won a one-score game. You made plays when you had to. You've done a few things different than you weren't accustomed to doing. You've been on the receiving end of some of those clutch plays that Nebraska actually made in their favor. So, shoot, B-Mac. I think Nebraska's staff is quietly, as only a coach can be, a staff can be, tickled that you get out of there with a win, but there's still plenty that you get a chance to teach and get you guys to buy into.
I think that's it's kind of a dangerous game we play a little bit.
Yeah.
When you go and rewatch and form analysis and things like that, because if anybody looked at my Twitter feed last night about the Chiefs, I think it's kind of the same thing as a fan. Overreaction and putting stock in, maybe 3 or 4 plays or a specific drive, or even, judging a guy based on 1 or 2 snaps and kind of forecasting from there can be a dangerous game. But when you kind of peel the onion back of what you saw from last week that the coaches addressed, and we'll get into some of the stuff, I think some really interesting stuff with the media, with the press conferences that we'll talk about. But what was kind of something that held with you throughout the week that maybe something that, what you saw that was validated, or maybe something you saw that was like, hey, maybe this was or wasn't what I digested real time?
Yeah, I think so. I'll start on the offense. I thought, early on we talked in the broadcast that this was going to be an interesting cat and mouse game in terms of Nebraska's patience. You could see that the way Cincinnati wanted to play, they were going to come rally, make tackles, kind of had that, we always joke about the Omadome with weather down the road, down the interstate. There's kind of that dome that, Cincinnati played with defensively. And so I said early on, it's going to be interesting to see if Coach Holgorsen and Dylan can be patient to play catch, because they'll be able to play catch for as long as they wanted to. Turns out they did. And, it elicited different responses, obviously. But for a guy to complete 33 passes and take good care of the football outside of the scramble and the one errant throw that didn't result in a turnover, you'll take that because you know how to stay within yourself. That's one thing I think they can take away. And then the other thing is Nebraska defensively getting better for stretches as the game wore on, then having to readjust again and then make plays late. They adjusted after the first couple of drives. They settled in for 2.5 quarters, really played good defense. Then they got tempoed a little bit and lost a little bit of lane, pass rushing integrity, but were able to get it back and make plays when they had to. So I like their resiliency. And the coach in me says, yep, we got plenty that we can work on in the next week, especially with Akron coming into town. You always want the nameless, faceless opponent. And the beauty of it, Benny Mac, Nebraska's just trying to be the best version of themselves. And so you need some tape to motivate you in order to keep you getting better.
And there were some things that that maybe on the surface, watching the game, you were pleased with. And then, going back on, when the coaches talked about it, maybe weren't as good or up to their expectations, special teams being one of those things.
I agree there.
I think for me, the nameless, faceless thing comes into play because we saw this last year, right? You had and Coach Rule talked about it at one of the media gatherings this week about the UNI game kind of bleeding into the next game. And, you have to kind of earn your stripes, so to speak, to be able to just show up. And, through a week plus in college football, we've already seen what it looks like when you aren't, showing up with the right mentality and the right attitude. And I think it's important for a team that's wanting to take those strides and those steps to take all of these opportunities seriously.
Yeah, and we'll hear, from another member of our broadcast team in Coatney with the scoreboard updates, and he'll rattle off some scores, and you're going to think to yourself, what in the world is going on, right? Just, I think 27-0 for Penn State, and, Indiana didn't pull away until late. They're just the struggles of what's going on and how hard it is to win and win convincingly in college football in this day and age of NIL and being able to flip your rosters in a hurry, man. I think we'll be a lot more appreciative of just racking up W's.
Let's talk about Dylan, because I think this is something that kind of bugged me throughout the week is people's perspective of the way 15 played last week and, trying to fit him in certain criteria or not fit him in a certain criteria. And I know that's something that you kind of just alluded to about, playing catch and Coach Rule said matriculating the ball down the field was something that he was very proud of Dylan for doing. But, the lack of explosives, I think, stuck out to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I know, when Coach Rule started talking about, the way Cincinnati was aligned, right, with the personnel, particularly in the back end, and kind of their philosophy defensively made that really challenging, that downfield passing. But I can't tell you the amount of times I've heard that from people about, whether it's the narrative coaches wanting to protect Dylan or him being too scared to throw the ball downfield or Nebraska not having the playmakers. All of those I feel are incorrect. But when you kind of put the X's and O's to that, Damon, what did you see and what has you not worried about the way that Dylan Raiola played last week?
Yeah, so this has got to be one of the few places where, a guy can complete 33 passes. 5 guys caught 5 balls. You had 8 guys with a catch. You're spreading the wealth. You want to be multiple and be able to have a multitude of different looks with your passing game, and we were kind of put off by it. I didn't understand that, right? I thought one of the things that was interesting for me to watch is for Dylan's patience and his maturity to stay within the confines of this offense and kind of share the wealth, right? He distributed the ball to a multitude of wide receivers, and I definitely think that that's something that Nebraska's got to be able to take and grow from. I like the poise. Now, did he want the 4th and 2 back? Oh, absolutely, right? Did the clock and the internal clock in his head tick a little too long with the fumble that he got back? Yeah, but those are things that you want to learn from on your pattern to just kind of growing in this offense.
One of the things that impressed me about Dylan isn't something that you talked about, some of the statistics, the completion percentage, the amount of completions, the target, being able to spread his targets around, but maybe it was something that we were able to see from our vantage point, but his command and the way that he operated for a first game to me was very impressive. And then to have Coach Rule come out and say this week the amount of freedom that he gets to make those checks. And he did admit, there was maybe 1 or 2 that he should have left alone. But for a sophomore, DB, talk about how rare that is for a quarterback to be able to read, dissect in real time, communicate that to 10 other guys in the huddle, and then go execute that at the level in which he did. Everything that goes into that, starting from just the film process and the preparation standpoint.
Yeah, to your point, that's where the stats actually matter, right? You had Hunter with 6, Key with 6, Lindenmeyer with 5, Barney had 5, Emmett had 7, and then I mentioned 4 guys with 1 apiece, right? That's 10 guys. You know what that lets me know? That you have tremendous command of the offense. You know where the ball needs to go and when it needs to go there. And I think the check with me's at the sophomore level, I call them check with me's because you'll get a couple of plays and you give your quarterback autonomy to get you where you want to be. Listen, I'm not comparing the two, but they certainly both were 15. But I told you the thing that I appreciated the most about T. Fraze at the quarterback spot was getting us into and out of a lot of good plays. I get it. Coach Osborne was a tremendous offensive mind. But the amount of times that Tommy got check with me's and got us into the right play was impressive. Similar to Coach Holgorsen, statistically over the course of his career, really bright offensive mind. To be secure enough with the tutelage that your protege, i.e. your quarterback, gets to exude with check with me's, I don't know. It's pretty impressive, in my opinion, if you want to grow this thing going forward.
One thing that, when you're looking at statistics, if we are going to go there, that stuck out right away was the lack of passing efficiency and totals from Cincinnati's offense.
Yeah.
And they're not without explosive playmakers. I thought there was a couple of guys that posed a lot of problems at receiver and tight end for Cincinnati, and they kind of had a two-headed monster at running back that I liked. But to hold that to under 80 yards through the air, I don't think that's an accident. And, you know, trying to go back and watch certain parts to the Nebraska secondary, it's hard to not be impressed with some of those guys and their ability in man-to-man coverage, because you and I in our last show talked about how often guys like Sierre and Keese and some of these guys are going to be matched up one-on-one and have to win not just one time but consistently, and they did that over the course of 60 minutes.
Yeah, I could not agree more, B-Mac. And you look at guys like Jeff Caldwell and Cyrus Allen on the outside. Those guys could run, right? They're legitimate Power 4 pass catchers. Royer is going to get paid on Sundays as a tight end. To limit Royer with just 3 catches for 11 yards, I thought was fantastic. And to be able to turn and run with guys like Allen and Caldwell, who are extremely fleet of foot and will get paid to play professionally, I think was encouraging. And the bigger deal than that, the limit of 69 yards passing, when you can play man-to-man in the secondary the way that they can, it really allows you to tinker with how you want to defend the run.
It gets fun as a coordinator when you have that trust, and when you're constantly having to give guys help or play over the top or, you know, cover threes. You're kind of limited in what you can do defensively. But when you have that ability to say, all right, Sierra, you're locking this guy up one-on-one the whole drive, right? Like it's you start to become multiple, and that's where it becomes challenging as a defense, not knowing where that's coming. Then it gets fun. Then those guys can just pin their ears back and go get it.
Absolutely. And I think if you're Coach Butler and Coach Snow and Phil Simpson and Braden and Addison Williams and the whole crew, right, Dvorak, you can figure out who can fit the way that you want to play. So your evaluation process is still all going. And I look at that, B, as a positive, because what it does is it keeps guys in the hunt in the weekly portion of practice. If I know that I'm constantly being evaluated or I've got an opportunity to play because you're keeping your options open, everybody stays locked and your coaches get to scheme.
I don't want to get too far ahead, but I do want to bring up special teams a little bit, because that was something that, just with who is leading this group, if you know anything about Coach Eckler, you know the amount of passion that he's going to pump into that room and how that's going to translate over to the field. That being said, you know, when you scratch a little bit deeper than just the surface, I think there's some things left to be desired. But I think that's more of a bigger picture for me, DB, is always striding to be better, always kind of pushing that goalpost further, because the second you're satisfied is the second that you're doomed.
Yeah, that's back to the teaching tape, right? There's plenty of positives to build on, but there's enough in there where you want to get better, where you keep your options open. I think you'll see a few personnel changes on special teams. And it breeds competitive practices where you're constantly tinkering, trying to get better. So I know you'll see some new faces on out that aspect of it, and it lets me know that Nebraska isn't satisfied, and that's exactly how you want this deal on the daily, is to never be satisfied.
He's Damon Benning. I'm Ben McLaughlin. We're really happy to have you with us here on the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. We're in our shiny new studio. Still an adjustment for me. I showed up at the old one today.
That'd be something I would do.
Wondering where everybody was. So then
we barely found Coatney.
I kind of panicked.
Good.
Yeah, I kind of panicked. Called Josh. How do I get up here? And so we made it. We're all here in plenty of time. You were here way earlier than I was.
Yeah, Josh almost had to come get me, but then I got a life preserver.
Good for you.
Yeah,
you've
found
got
my way in.
You've got a hot, what do they call it? Speed dial of folks that you can call at any time. Just really blessed to be here, honestly, in this, just awesome studio. The commitment this athletic department has made to not only the radio side of things, but Husker Vision, who's always been second to none. Nebraska's social team is just the absolute best. To be kind of all together on a game day, it's been awesome.
Yeah, the digs are so cool, Ben. You know what we saw? We saw Coach Mark Manning, our athletic director Troy Dannon, giving their own personal tour to Bo Bassett and his brother Mel, who, big-time wrestling recruits, but you know what he wanted to bring him to come see? The studio digs, right? That's a big deal.
It's a good thing they brought them before we started talking.
Oh, I know. You might have lost me.
Yeah, might have changed their mind.
Oh, I did go fraternize out there at the elevator to say hi to some wrestlers.
That's good on you. But also, Damon, just to be back in this building,
it's nice.
The 6 to 7 times, sometimes 8 times that we get to make that walk from the parking garage over here, just the feeling you get in your gut being in this stadium. You drive by, you see it all the time, but you can't mimic this feeling. Being up in this Memorial Stadium and on that booth and, kind of picturing what the tunnel walk's going to be like, and then hearing that first roar of the Sea of Red. Arrowhead was cool, but there's just nothing like being in your own place.
Those fans brought it, right? But it just wasn't.
We'll really be able to hear them tonight because our window can be open.
Yeah, 100%. And we get to take in what's otherwise a perfect night for weather. I don't know if it gets much better than what we'll get tonight.
Tell me about the feeling in the gut of a player that's never been here before right now. They've had the spring game, and that's a decent little test run, trial run, but it's not what they're about to feel. It's almost an out-of-body experience from everybody that's talked about it.
And this crowd will be juiced, right? Coach Rule talked about coming home and no place like home and the light show and everything else that's going to happen. But the minute you hear that music and you start to make that walk from your new digs in the locker room out to the field, it gets serious in a hurry. There's no better feeling. I'll still get goosebumps, and I've heard the song, 500 times, and it will never get old.
What are you doing to stay to pass the time as a player all day? Because, as great as the night games are, there's a lot of minutes that you're ticking away throughout the course of a day.
Night games are great for fans, and it sets the tone for the environment, and you can totally get primed for a player. No worse time. So what you try to do is you shorten the day, right? You don't get them out of bed as early. Team breakfast is a little later. You try to stagger your meetings. And get your recovery, your pre, it's not really recovery yet, your pre, get my body right routine. You're trying to stretch the day incrementally to keep the testosterone at a minimum until a nighttime kick. But it is not easy to manage. But those that do, you'll see what happens tonight when they hit the field.
Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show on the air. Have you for just a little under 2 hours now at this point, covering Husker Nation and beyond. Call on Dakota Mac to discuss all your ag financing needs. Learn more at dakotamac.com. We'll step aside for a break. We'll kind of get into more of what we saw against Cincinnati and kind of takeaways we had from week 1. We have all that and plenty more. Stay with us.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Nebraska companies know that treating people like family is good business. At Medica, protecting families is our specialty. We care for your employees by offering affordable health plans with the benefits they need and the local doctors they trust. And we treat everyone on your team as a person, not a number. After all, that's how you do business too. With Medica, you're not just covered, you're cared for. Find out more at medica.com.
Nebraska football fans know what it takes to be the best. You've got to handle the heat, power through the cold, read the pressure. Same goes for the techs at John Henry's. They're trusted to perform when it's all on the line, when winter's driving hard and your furnace fumbles, when your thermostat is in the red zone, when the power goes out before the final whistle. Make the easy call.
Call 435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
And electrical.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. Light through the window, hot coffee in hand, a porch swing, or a skyline view. Work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave.
Hey there.
Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More money for what matters. More space, more time, more life. The good life is calling. Are you ready to answer?
Set. Hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Let's pause 15 seconds for station identification on the Huskers Radio Network. You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, Husker fans. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Visit allstate.com or call a local agent for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. It's so fun having games on here. I mean, during the pregame show where all of our attention's diverted. We've got a double overtime game happening in Dallas, Fort Worth, SMU Baylor, tied at 45. We've got a full scoreboard from Matt Coatney coming up here in just a little while. Ben McLaughlin alongside Damon Benning. We got a whole cast helping us here today. Damon, we have a more than one ratio producer to on air, which is pretty awesome.
We need all the help we can get.
Yeah,
don't
that's
we?
exactly right. Takes a lot to keep us on the straight and narrow. Let's talk a little bit more about Nebraska, Cincinnati, and something I wanted to leave for this segment is Malcolm Hartzog. I think and about a 3-play stretch, you kind of saw his Husker career.
Yeah, it was
in a
encapsulated,
nutshell,
wasn't it?
Right? I mean, he gets the pass interference call and then makes the play of the game. And, I couldn't help but to see the beaming smile on your face after, not just because you knew we had won the game, but for Malcolm.
Yeah.
And everything that he's been to. What did that feel like? To see a guy like that who had such a great freshman year, kind of been through some ups and downs, but to have the icing on the cake when this team needed it the most is the understatement of the year.
It was fantastic. And, they're playing cover 2. And I talked to those guys in the secondary this week. And just him, where he started from at that snap, he's 6-7 yards deep, Ben. And he's got to get to deep half. And you think, well, normally I want to be about, 8 to 10 yards deep and kind of disguise. But it's like the guys in the secondary says, because he played it the way he did pre-snap, got him the result that he got, right? Sorsby clearly thought he had an open receiver in cover 2, and Malcolm was like, no, I'm going to make this play, right? I've got my brother's back. I got your 6. And I just think for him, that huge smile, he paid the price in the offseason to get his body ready. He hears the critics, right? I mean, he's not this, he's not that. And, like I said, he paid a price to get his body ready. I was about as excited as anybody else, not outside the Hartzog family, just to see him pull it off. And you saw his brothers in the secondary and on that defense get his back too.
I had the chance to work in Mississippi with my other job, and I actually talked to Malcolm's high school coach last year, and how unbelievably proud, not just that school, but that whole community of schools are of Malcolm Hartzog to, I don't want to say make it out, but to make it as big as he has.
He's such a good person.
Yeah, and that's what everybody said. That's what everybody down there said. And, it's cool because, we're lucky enough to be around guys and learn about their families and learn about who they are beyond the face mask. And a lot of times, people don't get that. It's happening more and more with social media and with people like Jess who can tell these stories. But it makes it there's a reason why I get as jacked as I do during baseball season, because I'm not just rooting for Nebraska to win. It's because I know everything about
You're rooting for the
kids,
story, right?
And I'm rooting, their parents and all the ups and the downs that they've gone through in their career. And it's the same way with Husker football, right? You've got so many kids that have done so much and been through so much and so much adversity. But to see that manifest, that's why you can't help but smile when a guy like that makes a play. And you see, Buddha Wright out there making plays. And it's why your heart sinks for Janiron Bonner. And it's just – it's so much more than just Nebraska got an interception.
That's actually one of the best parts of my job, and I remember Sharpie giving me the green light to just be a full-fledged homer, right? Because you get involved in the lives of these young guys and the stories of the coaches. And I just know him so well. Malcolm, he's got that Mississippi accent. And, guys used to give him a hard time because when he would get excited, he'd talk fast and I'd say, what'd you say again? And he would be so self-conscious, he wouldn't repeat himself. So what he started doing is he just stopped talking completely, right? He just kind of kept to himself, and you'd see that great big smile. And just to see him get to the podium and kind of laugh and smile and just talk a mile a minute, man, I couldn't have been more proud.
One thing I did want to get into about last week's game, and there's really no one better to talk to about it, that's running back. Obviously, we know EJ put in more than enough work in that game, but led the team in receptions, the amount of tough yards that he got on the ground. Really everything he did to help Nebraska win that game. I think in that process, it made it difficult for guys like Mackay and Isaiah to get touches.
Yeah.
Coach Rule even said that this week, that he was hoping to see more of those guys. But with Emmett, kind of handling things the way that he did was more than impressive to watch. And as a former running back, a guy who played that position, to handle that workload and to be able to do the multiple things that you have to do at this level, catch passes, make guys miss, which he's arguably one of the best in the country at, I think, and making the first guy miss, picking up blitz pass protection with blitzes, obviously running the football, holding on to the football, things like that. What impressed you about Emmett and maybe reinforced what we already knew about him?
Yeah, so I think the thing about it is he had to learn and is still learning to go from the guy that wants the job and kind of being the hunter to the hunted. Got a lot of young, talented guys in that backfield, in that room with him. And so for him to pay a price in the offseason and, listen, he's building his brand at the same time, and he's promoting Nebraska, and, he's everywhere with Dylan. They're at high school games of the week, and I think it would be easy to kind of question a commitment. Hey, man, yeah, you sure are out and about a lot. And, EJ answered the dinner bell, didn't he? Where he's got his body in great shape. He was handling the workload, and he's embracing the challenge. And listen, I've been on the receiving end of that too, where coaches tell you. I remember Coach Solich would say, "Hey, listen, second series this or third series that," and all of a sudden the game breaks out and it kind of gets away from you, and that white courtesy phone rings, and he's like, "Hey, that's on me. It got away from me. I got caught up kind of being a spectator." I think that happened with Coach Holgorsen and this staff too, where you have plenty capable guys, and what it did was it raised some concerns amongst the fan base. Oh, our running back depth and this, that. Coaches know we just got to play these guys. You wouldn't have known that you had the depth that you had in the 90s, or that Aaron Green and Braylon Hurd were really good running backs before they left, until they actually get a chance to play, right? It's a really fine line between having bodies and being able to say you have depth. I know the fans want to see the application of it to let them know you've got depth, but Nebraska feels pretty good about that, and I think in order to establish it, you just got to let it rip.
Couple of names I haven't heard in a hot minute.
Yeah.
Hot minute. Aaron Green and Braylon Hurd.
I mean, how would you feel like if you were Brandon Jackson, who didn't play for 1 year, or, only played for 1 year, or Carell Buckhalter? Like, we wouldn't have used depth then until you actually get a chance to see them play. So we have to be careful about making rash judgments.
Well, and what does that do for Mackay, Quentin, and Isaiah this week in practice?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, they're going to try to go get it now.
You got to go throw a couple logs into the fire to keep that going. I mean,
listen, Carter Nelson gets that block on that speed sweep, and Mosey scores early in that one. So, again, Mackay Nelson ready to break loose with Harburg when he had the little insert block that he kind of missed on. So it's a game. It's a real finite game of inches, and doing your 1 of 11 is huge. Those guys will be chomping at the bit to get their opportunity.
The closer we get to kickoff, the more traffic we're seeing in and around, foot traffic we're starting to see in and around the stadium. And I know something new that we've got going on this year is Husker Gameday just right over our shoulders. Fans were already lined up for that walking in when I was walking into the studio today. And Jessica Cootie's down there right now and taking a peek on all the festivities going on over the Hawks. Jess?
Hey guys, we're down here at the first ever Cornhusker kickoff inside the Hawks Championship Center. Fans are filing in, and it's going to be a great time. It's a new addition to Game Day here in Lincoln this season. So much going on down here over the next 4 hours. Well, it starts 4 hours to kick off, but it's free to the public, and you do not need a ticket to get in. So lots of cool things going on down here. We'll give you a pan here and show you everything that's going on. Lots of games for the kids. You see all the inflatables that are taking place. We've got a football toss, a basketball net, and we've got an inflatable memorial stadium over there as well. But we've got a 40-yard dash station as well, and then lots of food and beverages. And you can see the stage is set up way back there in the corner. So at 4:45, Maddie and Tay, a country music duo, going to take the stage and perform for the fans out here. And then at 4:30, a little bit before that, to open things up, we're going to have a member of the Nebraska football coaching staff that's going to be here to address the crowd. So lots of fun things going on. If you're driving in or around the stadium and want to come in, it's free to the public. You do not need a ticket to get in. And it's going to take place every single Husker game day this season, 4 hours before kickoff, and then 3 hours on an 11 a.m. kickoff. But a lot of fun things going on, so bring the family out here. Come hang out and be a part of Husker Nation here inside the Hawks Championship Center. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Jess. Also down there right now, Husker Soccer getting some action with some autographs. So feel free to jump on in and say hi to the soccer team at the Hawks. Wow, let's just be more efficient with the words, right? Good grief. Potato, autographs, soccer, go do your thing. Kind of wish I was down there, to be honest. Look kind of fun.
Oh, I know, right?
That is your wheelhouse. Out there amongst the wild.
A few too many people for me.
Nope. Out there amongst the wild, seeing everybody.
Got DB written all over it, doesn't it?
You know what? We'll go ahead and take the next segment from you and let you go down there.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. Finishing thoughts on Cincinnati. Another thing that I think we were all intrigued to see was O-line play and how those guys stood up. Left tackle got a lot of attention. What did you think of the guys up front, how they managed the game together, and how that's going to help kind of bind those guys for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I think early on, right, playing in Nebraska's strengths, and what I think is going to happen with this offensive line, I still think it's going to be one of the strengths of this football team where they can shuttle bodies in and out. What I think the real key for Nebraska is to figure out what types of runs that these guys enjoy doing and that they're really good at, and center the ground game around that. In terms of pass protection, pass protectors' best friends are a good ground game, so I think those things will go hand in hand. Once they settle in on what they want to do at the left tackle spot, I think you'll see the continuity start to develop.
I think you said the magic two words everyone's looking for us to dissect. Left tackle, cycled more than a few different guys in there, 3 different guys. Gunnar Gattulo's going to start tonight. Impressions watching it back from that spot and kind of the ups and the downs that they all showed.
Yeah, I think consistency where, you got 20-some snaps apiece for 3 guys, and you want to get into the rhythm of the game and see how guys are playing it. You always want to get into a rhythm along the offensive line. So, Gattulo will get the first crack at it. He's still getting in physical shape from the offseason surgery to give his body the best chance to be successful. And Pritchett's still feeling his way along in terms of a consistency standpoint, in terms of what's asked of him. So between the two, I think Nebraska will get it figured out.
Let's talk a little bit more about Pritchett, because I think, in terms of grading, we're probably grading him on the toughest scale just
right.
because of his story and, where he came from, his circumstance here at Nebraska. Everyone's going to point to one play, right? The false start, and just assume.
Which we've talked ad nauseum, even real time in the game, was an illegal formation. Doesn't excuse the fact that he jumped off sides, but that play wouldn't have been any good anyway.
I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know if my eyes were lying to me. I did see some good from him too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely,
and graded better than I think people thought.
That's what I'm saying. Is I heard more than a few comments from people just in passing about. I mean, already throwing around that word bust, waste of money, all that kind of thing. I'm like,
hashtag too soon.
We need to pump the brakes a little bit on this, right? Like, let's let this play out a little bit longer, and we've all been around the sport long enough to know that it's rare you make it through 12 games with the same 5 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's not like Nebraska's been good fiscal spenders, too, in terms of how they use NIL. So I would be super cautious about using the term waste. There are very few things that you pay for up front without getting a return on investment. I think Nebraska will be just fine in that category.
Little patience could go a long way. Talked a little bit about the foot traffic going around. There's obviously a lot of traffic happening around, too. A lot of vehicles moving in and around. Coaches make substitutions during the game to get the best player on the field. Getting behind the wheel after drinking also demands a substitution. Sober drivers are the only choice. Impaired driving is deceptively dangerous. From the NDOT Highway Safety Office. And let's go ahead and get our first look at how things are picking up around the streets. Here with our traffic report.
Good afternoon, Nebraska fans. Traffic is flowing steadily in most areas ahead of Memorial Stadium ahead of tonight's game against the Zips of Akron. There was a crash near mile marker 413 on I-80 eastbound that NSP has cleared. However, you may experience some residual slowdowns in the area. NSP is currently out assisting allied agencies with a vehicle fire on Highway 77 south of Lincoln near Hickman. If you can avoid that area, try to do so. NSP will be diverting traffic. If you're coming into Lincoln from the west, anticipate significant construction slowdowns outside of Lincoln. Every team has a recruiting season, and that's right now for the Nebraska State Patrol. Apply to become a state trooper at nebraskatroopers.com. I'm Trooper Brett with the Nebraska State Patrol on the Huskers Radio Network. This traffic report is brought to you by the NDOT.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play, knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
Here, fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. Light through the window, hot coffee in hand, a porch swing, or a skyline view. Work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave. Hey there. Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More money for what matters. More space, more time, more life. The good life is calling. Are you ready to answer?
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome into this week's Cornhusker Conversation presented by Woodhouse. I'm Jessica Pudi, joined by the tight end, Luke Lindenmeyer. Welcome in. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, what a first start. What a first game. I had to refrain myself from saying Luke because, I mean, it was loud. I mean, the whole stadium. Well, you heard it, right? Sometimes you don't hear all that, but you heard it when it happened, right?
I remember 3 years ago, Memorial Stadium doing it for Luke Reimer, and me and Gage Stenger were talking. We're like, hey, one day the stadium will be saying our names. They'll be saying Luke, and for me, they'll be saying Stang. He's funny, and it's crazy it actually finally happened. And yeah, just so blessed because I was thinking of like that happening 3 years ago. I never actually thought it would happen.
What does it mean to you that Husker Nation wants to do that for you?
That's why I came here. I mean, it's incredible, just the fans and how much love they have for all of us.
So take me into just this year, your approach to this year, knowing that you were going to be in a bigger role and that they were going to utilize you in this offense. Just how ready and what's gone into you being able to be ready for this role this season?
I mean, it's been ever since my freshman year. I think learning from Travis, learning from Nate, learning from Thomas, just watching them and how they knew they were going to a game like as the guy and how they prepared, what they did during the week, their film study, what they did before and after practice, and just building my routine on what I'm going to do before and after practice, before and after games, and really just being prepared and ready for any winning moment that comes my way.
Every time you got the ball, it took like 3, 4, 5 defenders to get you down. What's it going through your mind when you catch the ball?
Just run. Like, just catch it and run. I mean, first catch the ball, obviously, but I try to make it, like Coach Holgorsen says, don't let the first guy tackle you, make the first guy miss. And I never want just one person to be able to tackle me. I always want it to be one or two, like, coming in after the first guy.
Okay, so let's go back to more of your beginnings and when you first started playing football and thinking about what's next.
Mm-hmm.
What went into your decision to want to walk on here and continue your career here as a walk-on?
Wow. Well, I don't want to play football at first, but I wanted to play basketball in college, and I kind of got to my junior year where I was like, I don't think I'm going to grow anymore, and nobody really wants a 6'4" power forward. So my high school coach convinced me to, come back and play football still, because I was actually thinking of not playing football in my sophomore year and just focusing on basketball. So props to him for getting me to keep playing football. But I could have gone to my parents' alma mater. And I felt like there was some pressure for me to go there, but I just felt like my mentor and God called me to walk on here, take a chance on myself, and play at this level.
So then, from the start, what you talked about it being a long process. What were some things that you did that did you believe all along that you were going to get your opportunity at some point?
Honestly, I didn't really think, I never even could imagine this could ever come at some point, if that makes sense. I really honestly took it day by day, and I'm not gonna lie, when I was a freshman, I would covet just being the starter, and that's all I wanted. And then it was 2 years ago when I got on the field, and it wasn't really everything I imagined. I kind of still felt empty on the inside a little bit, just from even after a win, hooray, we won, but then after that, it still just felt empty. And it wasn't until last year where I really, took a deep dive in my faith. And instead of just living for pleasure, I started living for purpose. And that's when I really took off. That's why I really started having more confidence in my ability to play, because I know, I have a Savior that loves me and died for me and gave me eternal life. And knowing that, I can play with all the confidence in the world, and knowing that I can play with so much love for all my teammates, for my coaches, and everybody in the program.
Oh, that's amazing. So, but before that, though, that moment, what kept you kind of sticking around and battling through it when you did feel empty at times, or you were wanting more opportunities? What stuff kept you here at Nebraska, too?
Teammates, coaches who believed in me. My mentor I was talking about before, Yano, he called me every day, just continuously encouraged me to stay in the playbook, that my time was going to come, even though, I was on the scout team, going against Garrett Nelson, O'Shawn Mathis, getting destroyed each and every day. And it's so easy to just be so focused on what's happening right now and lose sight of the big picture, the eternal perspective. And I think just having those people pour into me and give me that advice, having the older guys above me keep encouraging me, and just having people telling me I did a good job today and that I'm going to be a good player someday. Coach Brown, I would meet with him one-on-one just to increase my faith, and he would start the meeting off that, like, I had some good blocks today, I'm going to be a good player. Mickey Joseph instilled a lot of belief in me. And then when this new staff came, I think Coach Campbell and Coach Rule kind of took me aside and asked me, like, what kind of player I thought I was. And I was, like, focused on, like, the daily kind of player, but they saw, like, NFL, like, picture for me. I didn't even think I could be in the NFL. And the only person who, other than them, who believed me that was also Yano. Because when I didn't even think I could play at this level, he was talking about, hey, I'm going to be in the green room when you get drafted one day. And I'm like, what? I don't even have a Division I offer right now, and he's talking about NFL. So just people believing in me, I had no other choice but to believe in myself, too, because of their belief in me.
Wow, that's awesome. So I know a lot has been made about, oh, you were a blocking guy, and then, oh, you can catch the ball. You always knew you could catch the ball. Oh, yeah. But what made you okay with being in the role that you weren't necessarily catching a lot of passes yet, just doing whatever you can? What made you okay with that role?
Well, Coach Mosey came in front of the team during fall camp and kind of talked, and I was like, I kind of identified with it because that's what I did 2 years ago. He said, know your role and accept your role and be proud of your role. And I knew with two older tight ends in front of me, two great tight ends in front of me, that I wouldn't be, in for the cool routes and stuff. So I had to find a way to get on the field. And a lot of people do that today through, like, special teams, and mine was the blocking plays, the blocking personnel plays. And I always knew I could catch because in high school I was actually a receiver. I was the outside receiver wearing number 99, but I did play O-line when I was starting football in 6th grade and moved to tight end in middle school. But yeah, I just had to find my role, accept my role, love my role, and just do anything I can to help the team.
Okay, so then when Coach Holgorsen gets here and says, okay, this is a guy that we're going to utilize to throw the ball to, what was that process like, and what did that mean to you that he identified that in you as well?
Well, a lot of my teammates noticed, and a lot of the coaches noticed too, as soon as he got here, I don't know why, but, like, something kicked in me, and I just, like, started going crazy in practice. Like, I started blocking my butt off, like, putting people on the ground and just having, like, a lot of effort. And I guess I'd kind of sell that as, like, an opportunity to show what I could do. And he noticed it, and he trusted in it.
That's cool. So then just how have you gone about just developing that chemistry with Dylan, that he does trust throwing you the ball too, and that you're a guy he can rely on to catch the ball when he throws it to you?
Mm-hmm. Me and Dylan have a great relationship. He's just a guy, he trusts me, I trust him, we joke a lot. We hang out, like, off the field too. So being together in that, we both share the same faith. So being able to talk about that, pray about that. Went to church together during the off season. So just creating our bond off the field too, so that we can trust each other on the field. Like today, we missed a throw, so we got it after practice. Make sure we got it down 100%, so we're ready for the game.
One thing that people might not know about you is that even when you might not have had the bigger role on the field, you were very, very involved in the community, doing a lot of different things that people might not ever know about. Why has that been important to you to give back in many different ways to the surrounding communities here?
Well, we're probably at, like, the coolest place in college football. It's like everybody, like, cares. Like, you can go to a lot of the other big schools in the country and go out in public, wear your shirt, and, like, nobody cares. Like, you go to a school and the kids, like, don't care as much as the kids care here. And we're in just such a cool position. And I'm not going to be here forever. Like, I got eligibility. So I realized my freshman year, like, I'm not going to be here forever. There's people coming back, like Amir Abdullah, people who are in the NFL, wishing that they were still here. And I kind of took that and was like, I'm not going to wish I was still here. I'm going to make the most of my time here and try to get out in the community, show my face to people who support us and make the most of my time here.
Yeah, great perspective. The developmental part of this program that Coach Roll has shown that he can do everywhere he's been, how much are you a testament to that, of where you started when the staff got here and where you are now?
I mean, I just been trying to do what he talks about in team meetings, because he it's proven like what he says works. And, like, people end up in the NFL because of it. Like, you look at John Bullock. John Bullock wasn't even going to come back for his 6th year. Now he's on an NFL roster. Like, it just shows, like, if you do, like, you have a process, you stick to it, you have standards, you stick to them, stuff's going to work out for you.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's circle back. Let's talk about this week. What are some of the things when you close a chapter on week 1 and the game 1 and the things that you learned on film that you guys wanted to improve upon going here into week 2?
Yeah, we do Tell the Truth Sunday, so we watch the film, grade ourselves. I think Coach Rule makes an emphasis on that. Like, the most valuable information you get from a game is grading yourself, self-evaluation. So grading ourselves and then taking feedback from coaches, what we did well, what we can improve on, and then what's the plan to get better. And then flipping the switch on the next day. Okay, now we got to know our next opponent. We respect every opponent and we prepare for them. It doesn't matter who it is. So just going from Sunday to Monday, flipping the switch from that game. Okay, here's what we did well, here's what we need to improve on, and here's what we need to get better at during this week to get ready for the next week, and then flipping the switch on a whole new opponent, a whole new scheme.
Does it feel any different for you going into this home opener, just knowing the role that you're playing? Like, does it carry any different weight for you?
I mean, honestly, I was less nervous for last week's game than I was 2 years ago when we were going to Minnesota, and I was probably to get I got 6 snaps that game. And I think it's just the preparation I've done, and my faith is a big part of it too. Like, I have nothing to fear going into the game because I know God's on my side, so I'm like, who they got? Yeah. Great stuff.
Appreciate your time. Best of luck and congratulations.
Thank you.
For Luke Lindenmeyer, I'm Jessica Cootie. This has been a Cornhusker Conversation presented by Woodhouse. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset. And while I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. Light through the window, hot coffee in hand, a porch swing, or a skyline view. Work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave. Hey there. Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More money for what matters. More space, more time, more life. The good life is calling. Are you ready to answer?
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Matt Coatney back with you on our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show. Time now for a Nebraska Lottery scoreboard update from the Greg Sharp broadcast booth. Every Big Ten team is in action this weekend. 9 of them played earlier today or are in progress, like Iowa. They were at number 16 Iowa State, and the Cyhawk Trophy was on the line today in Ames. 2 Iowa teams, but it was a Nebraskan who got in the end zone first.
Beck from the shotgun, 2 receivers left. Rocco looks that way. He fires for the end zone. Leaping catch, touchdown, Benjamin Bramer. His 3rd touchdown reception of the season. And Rocco Beck has a touchdown pass in 21 consecutive games, the best mark in the nation.
Benjamin Bramer, the pride of Pierce, Nebraska, just like our own producer, Josh Hilkeman. That's John Walters on Cyclones Radio from Learfield with the game tied 13 apiece with just under a minute to go. Kyle Conradi boomed in a 54-yard field goal to give Iowa State a 16-13 win. The Cyclones deny Kirk Ferentz an opportunity to become the Big Ten's all-time winningest coach. ISU has won 3 of the last 4 in the series. In Bloomington, Indiana, Kennesaw State at number 23, Indiana. Big Ten fans, do you know who Indiana's quarterback is this year? If you don't, start becoming familiar with the name Fernando Mendoza.
Mendoza to throw, wants to go to the end zone, wide open! Touchdown, Indiana! What a grab out there by Surratt once again, and the Hoosiers put 6 more on the board.
The legendary Don Fisher on the call on Indiana radio from Learfield. The transfer from Cal, Fernando Mendoza, threw 4 touchdown passes, and the Hoosiers blew out Kennesaw State 56-9. Indiana topped 500 total yards for the 2nd straight week, while their defense didn't allow a score by touchdown. Number 11, Illinois at Duke. Brett Bielema won his 30th game as Illini coaches. Illinois defeated Duke 45-19 to improve to 2-0. FIU at number 2, Penn State. The Nittany Lions got off to a slow start, but Drew Aller threw 2 touchdown passes as Penn State shut out FIU 34-0. What's the top sign your game was a blowout? They ran out of post-touchdown fireworks in Minneapolis as the Golden Gophers run-ruled Northwestern State 66-0. 9 different Minnesota players scored touchdowns, and the game was called midway through the 4th quarter due to weather. Baylor at number 17, SMU. It was a wild one today in Dallas. Trailing 38-24 midway through the 4th quarter, the Bears came back and upset the Mustangs on a field goal by Connor Hawkins. 48-45 is the final. The 14th straight victory for Baylor against SMU. How can you tell if your coach is upset? Even after a win, he makes the entire team do sprints. That's what Syracuse coach Fran Brown did today after the Orange had to rally at home to defeat UConn 27-20 in overtime. Virginia at NC State, C.J. Bailey threw 2 TD passes, ran for another to lead the Wolfpack to a 35-31 win over the Cavaliers. San Jose State at number 7, Texas, Arch Manning threw 4 scoring passes, and the Longhorns blew out the Spartans 38-7. Tommy Castellanos threw 3 TD passes. 14th-ranked Florida State obliterated East Texas A&M A&M 77-3. Baron Morton threw 3 scoring passes. The Texas Tech Red Raiders dominated Kent State 62-14. The Golden Flashes have lost 22 of their last 23 games. Central Michigan at Pittsburgh. This was all Panthers, 45-17. Eli Holstein threw for 4 touchdown passes in the win for Pittsburgh. Big Ten games underway right now. Top-ranked Ohio State is blowing out Grambling at the Horseshoe, 28-0 early in the second quarter. Number 6, Oregon is leading Oklahoma State in Eugene, 20-3 early in the second quarter. And a mild surprise here. Get this score. At the end of the first quarter, Middle Tennessee is leading Wisconsin in Madison, 3-0. No score between Miami of Ohio and Rutgers as they near the end of the first quarter of play. Number 4, Georgia leads Austin Peay 14-3, and that game is delayed due to weather. Other games of note, listen to this score. This game is delayed also on the East Coast, and number 8 Clemson trails Troy 7-0. Kentucky upsetting number 20 Ole Miss early in the second quarter, 10-0. Number 22 Tennessee easily dominating East Tennessee State 31-0 middle of the second quarter. And in the border war, it is Kansas leading Missouri 21-15. They are midway through the second quarter. And that is a look at a Nebraska Lottery scoreboard. Gentlemen, it's nice having you back in Lincoln for the home opener here today.
Thanks, Coach. Nice having you around as well, even though we're in different rooms. Used to looking across the way, so I'm assuming everything is under control in the radio booth. We'll send Damon to go check that out here in just a little while. You mentioned the Clemson score Coach did. How about Dabo Swinney this week?
Oh, I know. Just
like we're talking about report cards and both being Fs.
So it was a lot of coach-on-coach crime this week. It was Lanning and Gundy and Kelly and Swinney. And
Kelly didn't really mince words.
No, maybe he's just a tough grader. I don't know. Or maybe he didn't watch the second half.
The way they played, maybe you didn't watch the second half.
I wouldn't have watched it either. I was like, wow.
Wow. No holds bar. I mean, I know Bud Crawford's fighting here in a couple of weeks, but we don't need coaches getting after each other, although it does make for some entertaining talk show material.
Which, by the way, it's the only time you'll hear me say is we'll be on air at 7. Thank God for an 11 a.m. kick next week.
I know. Yeah, I think we're all kind of chomping at the bit. That dude is a freak.
He is.
I saw a
he
photo.
He's ready to go.
He is? I don't believe it. I can't wait. Also can't wait for tonight. That's the home opener for Nebraska, hosting Akron here in just a little while at Memorial Stadium. Want to get into offense a little bit, Damon, and I don't know how we ended on Dana Holgorsen taking shots this week, but certainly did. I know a couple of possessions in the red zone he probably wants back, but you know, when you kind of dissect and it's kind of hard to do because I think we all have this preconceived notion because of his track record of what Dana is and what his offenses has been based on his prior stops, but marrying that to Nebraska I think is still an adjustment for some. When you look at Dana and you look at the personnel that Nebraska has, and for whatever reason, I was thinking about this week. I keep going back to the USC game from last year, right? He takes over and in a very short amount of time, having to digest the playbook and put stuff in based on what he saw and interpreted from afar, and then takes over. Now that he has some time to adjust from that situation in LA to where he is right now, when you see Nebraska and what they want to do, what has impressed you about how he implements his philosophy, marries it to Nebraska's personnel, and then, of course, you know, what that end result looks like?
Yeah, listen, I'm excited. He's really good at what he does, and he plays to his personnel strength, and I think he'll continue to do that. And it could be little things. B-Mac, like, you know, maybe an offset running back versus putting him in pistol to give you another downhill run game option, or how he utilizes his personnel groupings. Or listen, this will be about playing matchups this week, and how much do we get guys like Barney, and how do you introduce Keelan Smith and Cortez Mills and some of these guys? So I don't worry about him finding a way to play to his strengths. What I think he's going to want to continue to do is run the football and play the long game as the Big Ten season kind of looms from around the corner.
The running back piece to me is going to be interesting tonight because even if EJ's hot like he was last week, they want other guys to get carries. I think Dana, in a perfect world, got other guys carries in the last game. We talked a little bit about running back rotation a couple of segments ago, but to really unleash some of these players and maybe learn, what can they do on the field and earning the trust of the coaches is really important, because that's when it starts to get fun, when you start scheming things up, is you have that trust in guys. They're going to be top of mind. And we know what Jacory can do in dealing with the injury. That was a gnarly hit that he took.
Surprised he got up, right? We were both
all
shocked.
were until we realized who it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about Bud Crawford. I mean, pound for pound, the toughest dude that Nebraska has on their team.
Yeah, you heard Coach Rule joke about it too. He said, "Yeah, if it was anybody else, they come back and they tell me, hey, Barney's got a bad ankle. We're gonna have to watch him. Put him on a pitch count." And he's like, "Yeah, he'll probably be practicing on Tuesday. If there's anybody else but Barney." And you're right. It's just how he practices. I talk about it all the time. He's just relentless, and he's one of those guys that is highly, highly competitive. And we'll see how they utilize him today. But you always want to be smart, but you want to continue to get better. And when you're trying to put together a culture that breeds competitive behavior, Barney wants to be a part of that. So I'm sure whether they want to give him some time off or not, Barney's going to want to play.
You said something really interesting when we were talking about the offensive line, about how they like to block it. Yeah. And I think that's an important part of this too, when you look at a guy like Dana Holgorsen and what he wants to do and how he wants to move the football on the ground. How do you put those things together in terms of schematics and then the implementation of how you want your run to look? Because it's not like you have enough time to just change it week over week.
No, and that's going to be an interesting thing. I think he has a good feel for what these guys do well, and he's got to marry that with his personnel groupings, right? If you truly want the offensive line to be the strength of your team, then I think what they like goes first. But what this offensive line has to understand, and the offense as a whole, the little caveat to that is you give Dylan a lot of freedom with check with me's to get in and out of plays. So just because something is called a certain way, or that's how it was first initiated when it comes to the little communication piece, doesn't always mean that's what you're going to see ran, given the freedom that Dylan has.
That being said, offensive coordinator, quarterback relationship, there has to be a level of trust.
Absolutely.
To be able to do that, because Dana's spending all week going through identifying defenses and ways that he feels like the offense can hurt the defense. Dylan's clearly doing the same thing, but they better be on the same page. Although there's going to be some uncomfortable conversations on the sideline.
Oh, absolutely. And who's going to win that battle. And say what you want about Dylan and the last name and the level of his importance to this team, but make no mistake about it, this is Coach Holgorsen's offense, and it's going to go the way that he wants it to.
I was going to say, if there was any gray area, that was cleared up real quick at his press conference this week.
Yeah, right.
In the way that his message is delivered. He
doesn't mince a lot of words,
I was about to say, there was no mincing words from Brian Kelly. There's no mincing words from Dana Holgorsen either. And going back to last year, it didn't take him long. Was it the perimeter blocking? I think the first thing that he said.
These guys just aren't very good. I'm like, what in the world? I've never seen perimeter blocking this poor. And you're like, whoa.
Off the top rope.
Is that really what he said?
But
he just got here.
And so the communication to the media is clear. You have to imagine it's times 10 to his players.
Yeah, 100%. And coaches always like options, so he'll coach his way into having options with what he wants to have happen.
Eager to see how Nebraska's offense gets after it again tonight. Against an Akron defense that we'll get into a little bit more in our next segment. This is our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show. Whether you're a farmer, rancher, investor, or simply a Husker fan, look to Dakota Mac for your ag financing needs. Visit dakotamac.com to learn more. We'll get into the Zips and what challenge is in front of Nebraska here tonight at Memorial Stadium. Coming up next.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
This is Big Red Football.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. Light through the window, hot coffee in hand, a porch swing, or a skyline view. Work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave. Hey there. Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More money for what matters. More space, more time, more life. The good life is calling. Are you ready to answer?
Hey, son, can you hand me that vice grip? As any farmer or rancher knows, having the right tools in the toolbox is important. That goes for your ag lending as well. If you're considering expansion, restructuring debt, or purchasing equipment, call Dakota Mac. We have a toolbox full of lending solutions to help you with your ag financing needs.
Hi, it's Nick Luxinger from Dakota Mac in Columbus, Nebraska. Call me at 402-740-6445 for all your ag financing needs.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play, knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset. And while I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. At Dakota Mac, we can help you do the heavy lifting when it comes to ag financing. Whether you're a farmer, investor, or beginning farmer, we work hard to find lending solutions to fit your needs. Learn more at dakotamac.com. Ben McLaughlin, joined by former Husker national champion Damon Benning. Akron Zips, the challenge today. Old Joe Moorhead, former OC at Penn State, leading the charge at Akron. So offensive-minded. When you watch them, it's interesting, right? Like, forget TJ Finley still around. That dude's got to be pushing 30, right?
I think we're going to see a lot of Wildcat. They'll try to get creative and possess the ball a little bit. I just don't know how comfortable they are getting busy outside the numbers in terms of throwing the football. But Nebraska's got to be prepared for a couple of different run packages, I think, for what they'll see out of the backfield in Akron.
What can Akron take away from what Sorsby did at Cincinnati? I mean, a lot of what he did was ad lib. It wasn't so much design, which I think is a difference from what Akron wants to do. But if you look at what success Cincinnati did have on the ground, that's where it came from.
Yeah, quarterback run game. And I think you'll see a couple of different personnel types from the quarterback spot to give you some run game. Now, if you do go Wildcat and you try to play running back at that spot, he's going to have to give you some sort of throwing option to keep the defense honest like Sorsby could. But listen, when you covered the way Nebraska did on the back end, you may be able to pin your ears back and kind of turn yourselves loose to defend the run. Now, defensively, they'll see it's a lot different than what they saw a week ago. And if you saw DeRay or anybody from Wyoming, there's a lot of running after the catch. I think he finished with 8 for 190, and he was getting vertical, and there was some running after the catch. So they play a little more man, a little more matchup zone where, since he was a little more umbrella-y. So we'll see what Nebraska can dial up on offense. But from a defensive standpoint, the way that Akron will attack Nebraska couldn't be any more different than the Bearcats.
Yeah, when you watch that game back, 10-0 was the final score, but never really felt like Akron was within striking distance of the Cowboys against Wyoming. Kind of an eyesore when you look at their passing numbers as well. Completion percentage was not great for Finley, 16 of 38 what he finished. They allowed 3 sacks as well, 139 yards through the air for Akron. When you look at back to the offense and the passing attack, I think they probably didn't love to see the amount of success Nebraska's secondary had against Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. What type of passing game? Because if this game goes the way Nebraska hopes it goes, running the football is not going to do a whole lot. They're going to have to try to find some success through the air.
Yeah, I don't think they'll want to get too vertical. I think they'll want to play catch underneath and see if they can't run after the catch, force Nebraska to tackle in the open field. And listen, you have to protect the quarterback, too. You have to have time to get the ball downfield. And I don't really see that being an option for Akron. So Nebraska's got to come tackle and get busy if Akron tries to go to the quick game via the air.
Coach Rule wasn't super fired up with the way Nebraska tackled early in the game, said it got a lot better as that game progressed against Cincinnati. When you look at, and I'm talking more of, guys like in the jack position or the safeties, the way Deshaun came up and brought guys to the ground, I would imagine that Coach Butler's going to put a lot of guys on islands again tonight, in terms of liking his guys more than the guys lining up across, which means those guys are going to have to come do it again.
Well, absolutely. And I think, Nebraska just had to kind of settle down with some of their run keys. When you play so much man-to-man on the back end, it makes run fitting a little bit difficult. And, I talked earlier in the week, about my fit, my man. And when you play a lot of man-to-man, that your run fits do change right before your very eyes. Nebraska won't have that kind of pressure on them this week. It will be more a little traditional in terms of how they can gap Akron out a little bit. But it's still, at the end of the day, I say this all the time, the scheme is really, really overrated when you can tackle. And if Nebraska tackles well, we won't be near as concerned with what they're playing.
You said something that I loved in last week's show about, every offensive coordinator loves the way plays look. Well, it takes one guy to wreck that to make it look not so good.
They always draw those plays on the dry erase board with, nobody being blocked.
Boom, touchdown.
Yeah, it's pretty with X's and O's. Doesn't always work like that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Nebraska's hoping for as well. Because here's the other thing I'm thinking of, Damon. Akron's coming in here. They're a massive underdog. Yeah. You might see some weird stuff, right? Especially with an offensive-minded.
And Moorhead's creative.
Exactly. With an offensive-minded head coach, you might see both those guys on the field at the same time. You might see flea flickers or reverse passes, something early on to try to grab some momentum early. Because this isn't exactly, as Coach Rule's hoping it would be, a Nebraska nice crowd. I don't know that they're going to be as nice to Akron. They're going to be juiced up. Akron's going to want to try to do something to get some momentum early in this game.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of pent-up frustration for Nebraska fans where they want to see this team play in such a way where, they can play with a lead and run through a lot of bodies and maybe have to check their roster, their program, if you will. And I think that will be the expectation level, fair or foul. I think that's what the fan base wants to see, and I think Nebraska understands that.
I liked what you said about the challenge in front of Nebraska's offense today because this is the time of the year where, maybe you see something different. You're studying for something on tape all year, coming into the game and all week, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're seeing something completely different. Sometimes these are the types of games that happens. But I think that it more than anything highlights the communication aspect, with offensive line pieces. Some have worked together, some have not. So you've got a unit that's going to be needing communicating up front. And then obviously defensively too, making sure those guys are communicating as well. Still breaking in some new backers, guys that are in charge of the defense. You feel good about who's running things in the back end with Buford and with Singleton. But getting guys in the right spots, this is all leading up to a point in the season where that's a non-negotiable if you're trying to get to where you want to get.
Yeah, let's not undervalue or overlook the fact that I think coaches, it's fun to scheme and to come up with plan Bs and, we didn't see that on tape, so let's go to this, right? That's kind of the game within the game about guys wanting to earn their keep. And so there'll be some of that, especially early on where there isn't a ton of tape. And, you get into week 2, week 3 where, listen, guys are still tinkering, they're improvising, they're changing on the fly. And so I think Nebraska's defensive staff will embrace that challenge. But you're right. With Coach Moorhead, I think anything's possible.
We haven't talked a ton about the way the Black Shirts played last week with Cincinnati. And, certainly we've highlighted the secondary. But something that you and I kind of were chit-chatting about after the game was D-line rotation and what Nebraska was hoping to get out of, their spell packages or guys coming in certain situations, and certainly called Williams Wieneri's name a lot against Cincinnati. But when you're starting to break down the Riley Van Poppels and the Elijah Judys and trying to figure out the rotation there, how important are the snaps today against a team like Akron where there's going to be opportunities to beat the guy in front of you and go make some splash plays.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting balances this week for Nebraska staff was to understand who you're playing and make it relative, right? And by that, I mean, Akron is your opponent, but Nebraska's playing against themselves in terms of there's plenty of room for growth. There's plenty of things that they can do differently than they did a week ago. And the key is to make sure that you're better this week than you were last week. Now, ideally, sure, you got to play against Akron. But Nebraska, they're playing against themselves as well, and they better understand that because you, at some point, have to learn to be your own benchmark. And am I playing the best that I'm capable of playing? And if I am, is that good enough? Well, you can't get to the latter without getting to the first part.
And the trust aspect starts to kick in at some point in time as well, right? You've got to be able to come in and do your job because you're going to get passed up by somebody, right? The reps in practice translate to the games only a handful of times. And if you're missing the mark of where you're supposed to be, coaches may think twice about down the road of whose number they're calling when.
Yeah, and you know what I like about that, though? It's competitive balance.
Yes.
It makes Monday through Friday very, very interesting. Listen, I say this all the time, jobs are made to be won and lost. So let's go try to get one.
Absolutely. Nebraska and Akron heading to a just after 6:30 kick here at Memorial Stadium. It's been busy around the stadium as we expected to be. Husker fans have been waiting a long time to see their Huskers back in their home building. Game preparation and repetition predict success in winning. Drivers and vehicle passengers who always use their seatbelts will increase their survival chances if a crash should happen. Remember to always make it click. From the NDOT Highway Safety Office, another check of our traffic. Here's Trooper Brett.
Good afternoon, Husker fans. Traffic is starting to build around Memorial Stadium and elsewhere ahead of tonight's matchup against the Akron Zips. Anticipate slowdowns in Gretna near the Outlet Mall as you're getting onto I-80 westbound. Also, we're starting to see some stop-and-go traffic on I-180 right near the stadium. NSP and Lancaster County have now opened up northbound traffic on Highway 77 south of Lincoln near Hickman. However, you may still experience some congestion in that area. Husker fans, drunk driving puts everyone on the road at risk. Be a teammate to your fellow fans and always have a sober driver. I'm Trooper Brett with the Nebraska State Patrol Traffic Report on the Huskers Radio Network. This traffic report is brought to you by the NDOT.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Let's pause 15 seconds for station identification on the Huskers Radio Network. This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Set, hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Preparation is the key to success on game day. And like your favorite Huskers on the field, you need to be ready right from the opening kickoff. Cenex has your pregame routine covered. We've got your salty snacks, your sweet treats, ice-cold beverages to wash them down, and fresh tanks of propane to fire up the grill. Fuel your fandom at your local Cenex station. Husker Pride, powered locally.
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Here, fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
The work is dirty and sometimes dangerous. It's the kind that can break your body, and if you let it, your spirit. But while there may be better ways to make a living, you won't convince me there's a better way to live. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome to Tunnel Walk Through Time, a segment where we reflect on Husker football games of the past. I'm Camden Cohn. Tonight, we travel back to this day in 1986. 39 years ago, the 11th-ranked Florida State Seminoles traveled to Lincoln to take on the 8th-ranked Cornhuskers. This would be Nebraska's first game of the season, while the Seminoles were coming off of a 24-0 win over Toledo in their season opener. Florida State upset the Big Red 17-13 in 1985 and looked to spoil the Huskers' debut tonight. The Seminoles got the ball to start, and they stormed down the field and scored in just 6 plays as Florida State quarterback Chip Ferguson found Victor Floyd for a 30-yard touchdown and gave them an early 7-0 lead. The Nebraska offense, led by quarterback Steve Taylor, struggled to gain momentum throughout the first quarter of play, but the Blackshirts were able to slow the Seminole offense and keep the game at 7-0 Noles after a quarter of play. Nebraska's offense finally found its footing a couple of minutes into the second. Steve Taylor gained 34 yards on a scramble, and then, with the Huskers at the 20 of the Seminoles, Taylor got the Huskers on the board.
As Taylor turns, runs an option to the left side. He cuts into 15, 10, the 5. He's in there. Touchdown! Steve Taylor on back-to-back beautiful runs has put Nebraska on the board.
What a run by Taylor to get the offense going and tie the game at 7. The Blackshirts continued to dominate defensively as the second quarter ticked away. The NU offense got the ball back and slowly worked their way down the field and into field goal range for Dale Klein
Klein kicked a 33-yard field goal to give Nebraska a 10-7 lead with 51 seconds left in the second quarter. It looked like the Huskers would take that lead to the locker room, but in just one play, the Seminoles struck back. Tailback Sammy Smith went 57 yards on a fake reverse and took it to the house. A tough end to the half for Nebraska as Florida State took a 14-10 lead into the break. Well, things didn't get any better for the Big Red to start the third. Both teams went 3-and-out to start, but the Huskers muffed the ensuing punt and allowed the Noles to recover at the Huskers' 35-yard line. FSU ultimately couldn't get much further and kicked a 46-yard field goal to extend their lead to 17-10 with 10-12 to go in the third. So Nebraska got the ball back at their own 37 for their next drive and were starting to get a little desperate to answer back with a score of their own. With a renewed purpose, NU marched down to the Noles' 19-yard line. A pass interference call on 3rd and 8 gave the Big Red a 1st and goal from the 6.
And the quarterback, Steve Taylor, looks at a 7-man Florida State front. He runs an option to the right side. He keeps the ball. He is going to get in there. Touchdown! Steve Taylor, he's a sweetheart. I'll tell you what, there's the second touchdown of the night for the young sophomore from San Diego, California.
Taylor's second rushing touchdown of the game tied it at 17 with 5:15 left in the third. The Black Shirts needed a stop to get the ball back to the offense and keep the momentum with the Cornhuskers, and they did just that, thanks to another 3-and-out. The Nebraska offense got the ball back and ran down the field. They were once again helped by another pass interference that brought the ball down to the Seminoles' 12-yard line. With the Huskers 12 yards from pay dirt, Steve Taylor made yet another play.
Taylor has the snap, fakes the give, wants to throw again. He's got a man out there. Touchdown, Todd Milligan! Steve Taylor has done it again. He scored 2 touchdowns himself. Now he's thrown a touchdown pass.
That was Taylor's first passing touchdown of the night, but his 3rd touchdown of the game, as the Big Red led 24-17 with 45 seconds left in the third. Yet another stop by the Black Shirts gave the ball back to the red-hot Nebraska offense, where Taylor looked to put the dagger in the Noles.
As Taylor fakes the give, wants to throw, has a lot of time, has a man out there. Complete, 15, the 10, the 5, touchdown, Von Shepard! It was a beautiful play. A picture-perfect play. Again, Steve Taylor froze the defense with the play-action fake.
The 4th TD of the game for Taylor made it 31-17 with 10:09 to go. NU would add a 38-yard field goal with a little over a minute left as they cruised to a 34-17 win. The Big Red outscored Florida State 24-3 in the second half and held possession for over 37 minutes, while the Black Shirts held the Noles to -2 yards in the final 2 quarters of play. With the win, Nebraska started the season with a big top 15 victory. The Big Red went on to finish the season at 10-2. This has been Tunnel Walk Through Time. Next week, we will travel back to 2003 for a matchup with Penn State. Reporting for the Huskers Radio Network, I'm Camden Cohn.
Welcome back to Husker Game Day. I'm Jessica Cootie and joined by a very special guest here in studio, Des Moines Adams, the CEO of Teammates and a former Husker legend. Thank you so much for being here. Happy game day. Happy first home game day.
Hey, we're ready. We're ready to go. Go Big Red.
Take me back to your first time. What is that first one like each season? The first one running out here in front of Husker Nation.
All of the anxiety and just all of that built up just to let it out. And then the rest of the season, that's where the flow, the domination. So once you get that out there first game, my hope is the Huskers tonight will go out and dominate because they have to dominate and dominate when Michigan comes in. So it's just another practice. It's just another day.
Well, it's going to be a special night for Teammates. You guys are going to be honored at halftime, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But you've been a part of this organization. I know it means a great deal to you as the CEO, but also as someone that participated when you were a player. So how has the program overall, the Teammates mentoring, how has it evolved since 1991?
It started with 22 football players serving as mentors. We've had over 51,000 volunteers from the community that have used their role to be a positive role model to serve our young people one-to-one. Started in Lincoln, we're now in over 200 communities. This last year, we served 10,000 students, and we're still growing. We're now in 6 states, And there's still a need. We have at least over 1,000 students that want a mentor, but we just don't have enough mentors.
Well, tell us, what are some of the greatest needs, both in the classroom with the grade levels and just overall for teammates? What are some of the greatest areas of needs?
You know, that 3rd through 8th grade is definitely a big need. We strive and we emphasize relationships. So when you get matched with a young person, the goal is to stay with them until they graduate. So to get paired with a youngin' and play that game, listen to them have lunch, there's no greater feeling as a mentor. So many students I've been matched with for 6, 7, 8 years, and to see them score their touchdown by being winners in the classroom with that diploma, there's no greater feeling. So our ask is teammates.org, click that button, join the team, be a mentor.
And say someone might not have the availability to be a mentor. You have other ways that you can contribute to teammates, right?
And there's another button that, you can get involved with a gift. Of course, Coach Osborne is about the gift of time, but as a nonprofit organization that's been around for 34 years, the sustainability really comes from those donations. And so if you don't have the time, there are many other ways that you can support what Nancy and Tom Osborne started in 1991.
So you guys are going to be down there on the field tonight. Tell us about the group that's going to be out there in front of Husker Nation at halftime.
This past year, we awarded over 200 lucky teammate students with a teammate scholarship, and at least 100 of those students will be at the game. And we're just excited to recognize them. They're all going to have their teammates' rules, quote unquote, shirts on. And for a lot of these students, this is their first time in Memorial Stadium. So it's a win-win. They get to see the Huskers win. They get to experience a Husker game. But most importantly, they get to allow 80,000 plus fans cheer them on by reaching their full potential through mentoring.
So Husker Nation, give them a huge cheer when you see them down there at halftime. What does that do, this kind of experience for those young students to get to experience Memorial Stadium for the first time?
It does a couple of things. It reminds them of co-founder Tom Osborne, his legacy on the field, but also they are a part of his legacy off the field. Second, it's motivating them with this scholarship to use their full potential toward their post-secondary education. But the biggest ripple effect is when they become mentors, when they become the next generation of leaders. That's what Teammates Mentoring has been doing for 34 years, and that's our hope. These students will be the next generation of leaders, use their full potential, and just remember who co-founder Tom Osborne is, not just on the field, but off the field, and they get to be a part of that team.
Oh, absolutely. Well, great stuff. Thank you for being here, and have fun. I can't wait to see you guys down there on the sideline and on the field at halftime.
Yeah, go Big Red.
I love it. Des Moines Adams here with us from Teammates on Husker Game Day. We got to step aside for a break. More of the show coming up after this.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Here, fall means two things, harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app, whether you're hauling harvest or headed to the game. Sap Bros fuels Nebraska.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Does your air conditioner have you in distress? Call SOS, a trustworthy company since 1950. Their technicians don't earn commissions. This equals fair treatment to our customers. SOS is a family-owned third-generation company. And now to celebrate the 75th year in business for a limited time, get a new York AC or furnace for $75 per month. Get you and your loved ones comfortable again with SOS.
SOS to the rescue. SOS. SOS.
In Nebraska, the good life means mornings that wait for you. Light through the window, hot coffee in hand, a porch swing, or a skyline view. Work that matters, and time that's yours. Neighbors who wave.
Hey there.
Stars you can almost touch. A mortgage that makes sense. More money for what matters. More space, more time, more life. The good life is calling. Are you ready to answer?
Tackle the toughest tasks on your farm with Brand Agricultural Products. They've got a complete lineup of grain handling and tillage equipment to take you from the preseason all the way to the playoffs or harvest. All their ag equipment is North American built and backed by an extensive network of dealerships that provide support over the long run. Lead the field with Brand Agricultural Products. Visit Brand.ca for more.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
It's not a job. I don't start my day by logging in or end my shift by punching out. I don't have a corner office, but I do have a seat with a view. I get to see every sunrise and every sunset. And while I may technically be my own boss, I fully accept that I am not in charge. I'm a Nebraska corn farmer, and there's nothing else I would rather be.
Brought to you by the Nebraska Corn Board.
Nebraska football fans know what it takes to be the best. You've got to handle the heat, power through the cold, read the pressure. Same goes for the techs at John Henry's. They're trusted to perform when it's all on the line. When winter's driving hard and your furnace fumbles. When your thermostat is in the red zone. When the power goes out before the final whistle. Make the easy call.
Call 435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing. Heating and air.
And electrical.
You're listening to Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac on the Huskers Radio Network.
Cornerstone Bank is committed to providing you game-changing solutions for your financial needs. Bank on a solid foundation. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Back one final time. Last segment of our Dakota Mac Husker Game Day show. We'll send it off to Countdown to Kickoff with Kyle Crooks as soon as we're finished up here. Damon, let's talk a little bit about hoping to see today. The old adage all week is it's about us and it's about Nebraska. Certainly want to continue to sharpen their skill set before next week and then before we jump into Big Ten play here in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think I'm not typically a start fast guy, but I would like to see Nebraska play with a sense of urgency, right? You're going to feed off the juice early of the crowd, and whether it's a kickoff, big hit or a big return, I'd like to see kind of a quick game changer in special teams if we could. And then the other thing is just a little bit of a faster trigger where on offense I'm really, really decisive and on defense I'm just flying to the ball, right? I just want to see like masses of red move at a high rate of speed today.
I think the explosive plays is, for me, it's something I've circled. One, I think even if Akron were to employ the same defensive looks as Cincinnati, just the differences in personnel tell me Nebraska has a lot more favorable matchups one-on-one than what they had last week, and that would lead to more explosive plays. But we both highlighted that's not necessarily how Akron's going to play things. And I do think Nebraska's going to pop a few long runs tonight as well, and I think that would kind of make everybody at ease a little bit about the offense able to gain yards in chunks.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of that is it's a couple of different things, backside blocks or, making the first guy miss in space. There's lots of things. It's just we're in a day and age where it's just hard to throw the ball over people's heads, right? You're a really bad defense if you just let people throw it over your heads. And so I think a lot of times it's cutting off backside guys. It's if I'm not the primary route runner, am I occupying a safety so he's not in the mix of a play? If I'm a running back and I'm out in space, I make the first guy miss. Like, what's my next move? There are lots of things that go into explosive plays. And when you're on offense, if you're not throwing it over everybody's head, then typically it takes all 11 of you to pull it off.
Let's get into our Brant ground game report. Ground game brought to you by Brant Industries. Make sure your ground game is up to speed with the Brant high-speed disc for a better field finish and fewer passes. We've talked a lot about the running backs. We've talked a lot about EJ, but when those other guys are in the game to get reps, a lot of times you see them try to be a hero on every time they touch the ball. What's the message to those guys, Isaiah, Quentin, Mackay, when they are getting their chances to, make sure they're not getting outside of what is being asked of them?
Yeah, take it from a guy that knows you want to maximize your opportunities. I tell people, regardless of what position you play, you always want to be caught with rather than without. So if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And I think for those guys, they are chomping at the bit, B-Mac, for their opportunity. And I expect something good to happen. Kyle, Jess, and I get to pick our players of the game. I know you're going to be shocked. I took Emmett last week. I'm taking Mackay Nelson this week. So I'm all in on the ground game.
I was just saying, have you gotten your certificate in the mail for president of the Mackay Nelson fan club? If not, it's got to be on it.
I don't think so. I'm expecting big things.
Yeah,
big things.
And you're not the only one that said that. Coach Rule has been very clear about what he thinks about him. Defensively tonight, what are you hoping to see from the Black Shirts? I think for me, it starts with quarterback run game. I think that was something that we all were a little uneasy about last week. But what are you hoping to see from Coach Butler's unit tonight?
Red Swarm. I need 10 to the ball. You got to have a cutback, counter, boot, reverse guy. And last week you saw that that matter, right? Where 17 McGahee's got to stay backside, stay home. So I need to see 10 helmets to the ball, and I want to see a ton of Red Swarm. Just play with trusting your teammates. When you trust your teammates, you can play fast.
And I think there's probably some guys in that secondary that are eager to get their opportunity tonight as well.
We're going to see a couple, so I'm pretty excited about that.
I'm sure you are. We'll when that time comes, I only have to spot 10, not 11, because I've got another guy over there helping me out. But, no, I think there's a lot of those guys that have earned themselves reps. Donovan Jones, can't believe we hadn't said his name yet on this show. He played outstanding, and I know there's a few other guys that are really eager to get their opportunity tonight. Home opener, my friend. You excited to be back in your own, spatial area, window open?
It feels great. I got my bodyguard that's going to walk me to the booth. We're the two-man.
Maybe. I wouldn't say I got lost, but I definitely showed up at the wrong spot today, so let's hope we can get there.
Listen, that just makes you like me, right? Kindred spirits.
I love that. DB, appreciate it as always. Have a great call.
You got it.
That's it. Damon Benning with us here on Dakota Mac Husker Game Day Show. That's going to wrap things up for us. Coming up next, it's countdown to kickoff. Kyle Crooks has you for the next hour as we inch closer to the home opener between Nebraska and Akron. Huskers 1-0, looking to stay perfect on the year against the Zip team who enters at 0-1 with a loss to Wyoming. For all my help here in this one, we have a whole gaggle of folks making sure we're staying on beam here tonight. Josh Hilkeman pushing the buttons for us. And we have plenty more Husker football coming your way. Countdown to kickoff is coming up next. Check.
This is Husker Game Day, brought to you by Dakota Mac. You're listening to Big Red Football.
Tired of worrying about what to make for dinner? Try Gary's Quick Steak. It's delicious, convenient, and easy to make in minutes as it cooks from frozen. It also has over 20 grams of protein per serving, is gluten-free, and is made with real beef and chicken. Enjoy sandwiches, enchiladas, stir-fry, quality sirloin chicken and corned beef ready in minutes. Simply sizzle, flip, and savor.
I promise you, if you try it, you're absolutely going to love it.
Visit our website to find a store near you.
Here, fall means two things: harvest and football. Just like Nebraska, you run on something powerful. Diesel for your farm, gas in your tank, or propane heating your home. Sap Bros keeps your farm and family fueled. We're kicking off with a Big Red giveaway. Enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits when you contract fuel with Sap Bros. And when Nebraska wins, you win. Score a free king-size Reese's in the Sap app.